It's time for the whole 9 yards. Hello again, everyone. Ralph Ventre here. Week 4. 5 NEC teams in action. A lot to talk about. Once again, it's a big show. Let's dive right in with the opening drive. 2 Northeast Conference teams on a bye date, Duquesne and St. Francis. The Red Flash and the Dukes, both 2-1 overall. They'll be back in action week 5. As for the teams hitting the gridiron in week 4, we'll take a look at Bryant, one of 2 NEC teams to face a Patriot League member this week. The Bulldogs will host Fordham, the 3rd time these 2 teams will meet, the first since 2010. They met in back-to-back seasons, 09 and then 10. Each home team successfully defending its home turf. And if you like offense, you should probably tune into this one live on NEC Front Row because there could be plenty of points scored in this one. Bryant comes in averaging 462 yards per game. Of course, Fordham, they put up 38 points in a Week 2 win at Central Connecticut. The Rams rolled up 471 yards of offense in that one. So tune into Front Row for a possible fireworks display in Smithfield. The second NEC versus Patriot League matchup involves Sacred Heart traveling to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania to face the Bucknell Bison. The all-time series is tied at 1 apiece. These teams met in 2013 and 2014. And heading into this Week 4 battle, there are some similarities between the Pioneers and the Bison. They both posted Week 1 wins over Pioneer Football League members, and they are both looking to rebound from a loss to a CAA team. The Pioneers, who are 2-1 overall, saw their 8-game non-conference win streak snapped last week at Stony Brook. They'll look to get their offense back on track. We'll hear more about that from head coach Mark Nofri later in the show. Moving down the docket, we take a look at CCSU. After a grueling first 3 weeks of the schedule, which included a bout at ACC member Syracuse, a game against Fordham, and then last week's battle at number 5, Youngstown State, Pete Rossamondo's Blue Devils finally return home to a root field looking to get well against Division II member Walsh. CCSU will look to use its athleticism to its advantage, hoping to break into the win column. You can check it out live, NEC Front Row. 2 more matchups to tell you about. They both involve a step up in class for the NEC teams. First, it's Wagner. The Seahawks will face an FBS member for the 6th consecutive season. This time they head to Kalamazoo, facing Western Michigan, a team only 8 months removed from the Cotton Bowl. It'll be a tough test for the Seahawks, but they did show some positive signs in last week's heartbreaking loss at Columbia. The rushing attack came alive in the second half. Ryan Folse busting out with 2 long touchdown runs, one going for 83 yards. Wagner, which may again be without preseason All-NEC quarterback Alex Thompson, will need to be effective in the run game to pull off a shocker come Saturday in Kalamazoo. And finally, Robert Morris making the long trip west to the Fargo Dome. Can it be 2010 again for Robert Morris? Well, let me explain. The Colonials, off to a 2-1 start, the first time they've won 2 of the season's 3 games since 2010. If you remember, 2010 was the year the Colonials secured the Northeast Conference title and represented the league in the FCS playoffs. Another link between then and now, well, the Colonials shut out their Week 3 opponent, beating VMI 23 blip. The last time RMU had blanked its opponent was in the 2010 season. The Colonials did it against then NEC member Albany. Now, they've been back to the Fargo Dome once since, but the Colonials' first trip to North Dakota State, well, that was in the 2010 FCS playoffs. Robert Morris actually scored the only first-half touchdown in that game, led 7-6 at the break before a disastrous fourth quarter led to the team's demise. Although this week's contest isn't a playoff game, it's certainly a prime opportunity for John Banaszak's team, which has had phenomenal defense in 2 of its first 3 outings. The Colonials will get to test themselves against the best in the FCS, the Golden Standard, the NDSU Bison. Robert Morris and North Dakota State, Saturday, ESPN 3. Another opening drive ends in the end zone. Moving on to the next segment, we take a look at whose stock is on the way up. I mentioned the Robert Morris defensive performance earlier in the show, and one of the reasons why that defense has been so effective is linebacker Gerald Ferguson. The versatile veteran has been in the middle of it all, helping the Colonials wreak havoc against opposing offenses. He's already a 2-time NEC Defensive Player of the Week this year. He has 3 sacks, 4.5 tackles for a loss. He's on the cusp of eclipsing his 2016 total of 5.5 TFL. Gerald Ferguson has been balling out, and it's been paying dividends for the Robert Morris defense. He'll get a chance to continue that against one of the best in the FCS as they take on North Dakota State in Week 4. With the Colonials en route to Fargo, Gerald Ferguson's stock is on the way up. Time for a breather. We'll take a look at the tweet sheet in our Twitter timeout. This featured tweet comes courtesy of Bluff Talk. Bob Healy, he's a member of the faculty at Duquesne University and an avid Dukes football fan. As you can see, he was pretty happy with the Week 3 result in Dayton. In case you missed it, the Dukes outlasted the Dayton Flyers 28-23, ending Dayton's 14-game regular season home win streak. Making matters more impressive, the Dukes did it shorthanded. They were without 2016 Jerry Rice Award winner A.J. Hines, as well as a number of other key contributors. Despite being shorthanded, Duquesne benefited from others stepping up. Tailback P.J. Fulmore had a nice day. Veteran Steph Osong forced a huge fumble in the fourth quarter. And then, of course, Nahari Crawford, his second consecutive 100-yard receiving day. Nahari Crawford has at least 1 touchdown catch in each of his first 3 games. And don't forget, we mentioned him on our Stock Rising segment last week. Bottom line, the Dukes over Dayton, they're 2-1 going into the bye. Hut for 2, hut, Omaha, Omaha. It's time for the NEC Audible. We promised you we would hear from Sacred Heart head coach Mark Nofri during today's program. The Pioneers will look to rebound at Bucknell after a 45-7 road defeat at the hands of CAA member Stony Brook in Week 3. Nofri knows his Pioneers are in for a physical test against a big Bucknell team, and he thinks it's all about getting back to basics.
We have our work cut out for us. We have to go back and focus on the things and get back to the fundamentals that made us good the first 2 games when we were scoring points and creating turnovers and things like that. But they're a good Patriot League team. Like I said, they've had football for a long time. Coach Susan's done a great job down there with that program, and they're physical and they're big as always. And we're going to have our work cut out for us. But we know what we have to do to get back on the track again.
One thing that Pioneers did well in their first 2 games, which were both convincing victories, was defend the run. Only 59 total rush yards allowed in those first 2 weeks. In week 3, however, Stony Brook was able to control the line of scrimmage and move the ball on the ground. So an SHU win at Bucknell may entail tightening up the run D. What's amazing? Stats amazing. Let's examine the recent work of 2 NEC linebackers, Bryant's Tom Costigan and Wagner's Quentin Hampton. They are 2 of only 7 players in the entire football championship subdivision to have at least 4 sacks through the season's first 3 weeks. Hampton, who had 5 sacks all of last year, has at least 1 sack in each of the first 3 games. He has 4 already in 2017. Costigan, who had 6 QB takedowns a year ago, he has 4.5 total. These 2 linebackers have been getting after the quarterback as good as anyone in the nation, and they're amongst the FCS leaders. And stats amazing. So it is week 4. It certainly won't be a bore. 5 games. We have 2 of them on front row. As always, thank you for joining us. I'm Ralph Ventre. This is the Whole 9 Yards. I'll see you again next week.